Welcome everybody to another special edition of the Undisrupted Podcast. Adam, the holiday season is here, and first of all, we are live. Yes, we are live and in person. I can actually. Is that your hand?
Touch.
Oh, anyway, now I gotta go. So it's the holiday season. What is some of the worst gifts that you ever? One of the worst gifts you've ever seen someone get.
You know what? I'm gonna call this out. My roommate in college, and he's married to her now, and she knows this is a horrible gift. So
this is gonna be
yes. So I will share this gift because he's the kind of guy who does all the thoughtful things. Like for example, she was in Iowa or something during the summer. She really wanted Swiss Miss chocolate pudding. They don't sell it there. So he figured out how to send it to her overnight with ice packs and all this stuff or whatever. So that's the kind of guy that
I hate him already.
Is, right?
Yeah, no.
Right. So his girlfriend at the time, now wife, she gave him a mouse for the gift. Now the mouse was a computer mouse.
Okay.
Right.
Clarify.
Right click.
Yeah.
Right click.
Right. Left click, right click, but it was a serial port mouse.
Oh, I remember those.
Yes.
The green or purple?
Yes, and this is in the USB era, mind you. It was chrome plated from Things Remembered.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, but who wants a serial chrome plated monogrammed mouse?
Nice.
Have you ever seen anybody use a chrome plated monogrammed mouse?
Make that into a necklace. All right.
Yeah.
Hang your mouse around your neck like Flavor Flav with the clock.
Yes.
Maybe a different.
Yeah, but he's not even a techie kind of computer person at all. So he was kind of figuring out, why did you give me this and anything? And then he looked at it, he was like, thank you, maybe? And then he brought his dog, you won't believe what she gave me. And I'm like, I know you gave her thoughtful gifts and everything. What did she give you? She gave me a mouse that was chrome plated, that was monogrammed, and it didn't fit my computer. I was like, well, they make an adapter for that.
Right. This is very good. There's an analogy for marriage here about adapting to some of the things that you've been brought.
What do you think?
Mine was, so I don't know that my aunt listens to the show, but we had Uncle Claude. Uncle Claude was an interesting individual. Uncle Claude lives on in infamy in our family. He's a great guy.
Uncle Claude.
He was hilarious. He's a great guy. They were very, let's just say, tight when it came financially. Mm-hmm. So my dad's family got tons of sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles. There's 27 cousins and all this. So for Christmas, we always do exchanges. So you get a certain uncle or an aunt that gets you as your gift giver. And I got Uncle Claude one year, and I got the card in the mail and opened it up, and my parents we had an old Panasonic camcorder.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, record it so we can send it to Uncle Claude. What it is? And I held it up, and it was two very crunkly old $1 bills. And I was like, thank you, Uncle Claude. But you know what? I knew that to him, that was a huge thing, because he was we lived in Michigan at the time, and he was he would walk up and down the streets looking for what we called Michigan dimes, which are cans, because they all cost 10 cents in Michigan. And he was like, I'm looking for Michigan dimes. So that my friend's who's that guy walking in the street? He's like, oh, that's my uncle. He's looking for dimes. It's okay. But anyway, so that was an interesting gift, but also thoughtful in his own way.
Yeah, you couldn't work there with 2 lotto tickets.
I give out lotto tickets all the time. But that's my gift of G-Paul. I'm like, here, have a bunch of lotto tickets. We win millions of dollars. Thanks. Congratulations. Yeah. But we're here, not just the two of us, Adam. We have Krystle Pearson with us at Tech Direct 501. Krystle, so I'm going to throw this to you. What was a gift? Odd gift, strange gift, maybe you or someone else you received?
I have to go with sweaters. I always get sweaters and more sweaters.
And a sweater vest?
Yeah, with the fur around the collar, and you throw it over, and then it's too big, and I get
Not
those.
a fan of those?
No,
with
not
the
at all.
fur.
No, not at all.
Look at that fur.
It's you can't even re-gift it, so no sweater vests.
So those of you listening to this, if you're a friend of Krystle's, no more sweaters.
No more. No.
Say no.
Gift cards only at this point. Gift cards only.
I like the gift card.
Yes,
all right. So tell us, what do you do for a living?
So I work for Brunswick County Public Schools. I am a technology director there.
Awesome.
We are Southside Virginia.
Southside?
Yes. School division, about 1,500 students. But we are the heart and soul of everything that we believe and we love and we do there. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. This year I was recognized as a Technology Leader of the Year for the Southside Virginia Regional Consortium. And my award was presented to me by First Lady Pamela Northam. So it's been a great ride in the midst of a pandemic and virtual learning. So I'm excited. So thank you for having me here with you today.
So, well, I'm going to jump right into the first serious question here.
Let's get serious.
Serious here. And we're in Roanoke, Virginia. This is where we are.
People got lost here. Yeah, sorry.
Home of the bacon and the
And the candy bacon,
Yes,
which we just
yes.
had. I mean,
So tell me, candy bacon.
Mhm.
Tell me your thoughts on that because I had it for the first time today.
yeah.
Did you like it?
About an hour ago.
Yes. I didn't not know what to expect, and then I got it, and I was like, quite tasty.
Interesting, I think was the
I
word.
think it's good. It can be a
Interesting.
little sticky, but it's good though.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've waited 2 years for this because we haven't had an in-person conference since 2019. So
You've been dreaming of candy bacon.
yeah, we'll take all the bacon we can have.
Now, what can you put it on or in?
The bacon?
Yes.
Or you see it plain. Is there a strategy? Because it said candy bacon bar, and I was like, does that mean that there's like toppings you can put on it, or?
No, I
You
think
just-
it's
just
just
go
a plate.
straight
That's
bacon.
it. Yeah, just plate it and go. That's it.
See, I go right into the serious topic, so go on, you can take it in a different direction.
Sometimes with technology we do the same thing. Sometimes with technology we think, let's candy coat it. Let's make it. See? Tie that in. But when it
Like the
gets-
mouse?
Right.
Yeah.
See? But let's just right to the meat of it.
Ah.
Let's talk a little about you. Before we came on the air, you were talking about some sessions you're doing,
Yes.
and you were saying how, and I love this phrase. Your authenticity about it is amazing. You're saying, I love the oohs and ahs that still happen at these events.
Yes.
And I will say that's something I missed from the virtual. You don't hear the oohs and ahs. Tell me a little bit about your session. Tell me about how it felt being back. You said it's been a couple of years. Besides the candy bacon, what else was good?
Right. So my session was what's in your digital toolbox, and I think that during this time of the pandemic and just kind of regrouping and refreshing, we used technology, but we used it more than what we thought we would ever use. Now you had Zoom, but now you have to do breakout rooms. It was different. So just kind of bringing an awareness to some of the technology resources that are available. As a district leader for myself, I know that sometimes you get inundated with so much information and meetings that you don't really get a chance to kind of sit down and fill your toolbox with those necessary tools. So I was excited to share that we talked about digital badging. That's something that we're doing in our school division. So listen, because you don't want to be the person without the badge, right? You have to get the digital badge. So we've been working with our teachers to encourage, because a lot of teachers are leaving the profession for various reasons.
The great resignation is real.
Right,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that we at least recognize the efforts that they're doing. We don't see everything that they do every single day, but it's important to recognize those things. So we have badges from our different vendors and our companies, and I've created them and we send them out. Our superintendent is leading from the top, and she's also been a part of that, and she's tweeting it, and other people
Is
are
she
tweeting
earning
it.
badges too?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
listen,
Yes.
she's a Twitter master, Adobe Sparker. She is working it out.
love it.
Go Guardian Guru.
I
Telling
honestly, superintendents out there, I don't ever hear that. It's
Yes,
sad, but I don't hear
yes.
it. That's what I call servant leadership. It's not about, again,
Yes.
serving others. It's about being a part of doing what you would ask them to do. You'll do it yourself, right? I
So
love it.
what platform are you using to kind of manage the badging?
Okay, so most times the badges can come from just recognition. Our ITRTs have worked diligently to make sure that they are recognizing people that should receive badges. Some of our employees are nominating other employees, saying, hey, this person, she's not going to say it, but she's really rocking it out in Pear Deck. I think she deserves a badge. They can use Google Forms to submit their requests for their badging. I'm using badge.design to create all the badges. So it's kind of make it as you go. If you are using a platform that we're not aware you're using, but you should have evidence of work, you can get a badge. So it's been coming along really well.
Does this all live somewhere? So like if I go into your school district, I can see like, oh, the teacher next door, I can see all of their badges. I mean, because I'm looking at
Most
their website.
teachers, I do a monthly technology newsletter, so I kind of build up to it. I hit my heavy hitters and I said, hey, you're a Twitter master. And what does the Twitter master want to do? Tweet their badge.
Tweet their badge,
Yeah, so everyone else started seeing that. They started using the badges. They're including them in their LinkedIn accounts, their email accounts. We have it's really cool. We have a photo frames. As you get a badge, you can take a picture with the photo frame.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really cool. But our main focus is students, right? We want to make sure that our students have the option. But in order for our students, we had to make sure our teachers buy in. So we started with the teachers this year, and then we're going to make sure that we can transition so that the students can start receiving digital badges as well.
That's awesome, because one of the things when I look at badging, it goes back to that teacher self-efficacy, and we talked about this today actually, mandating training for teachers, and so how can we still have that and then incentivize it? And I think badging kind of gets us there.
Yes.
There's a product that the district has purchased and you want teachers to use it more. Come up with that badging system to kind of recognize once a teacher has completed that, whether they're a Google educator or MIE or Flipgrid or what, because to your point, all these products, we want them to use it with the students, but how can we recognize them, because we don't have like endless pots of money to pay people, so I really love that.
And then how do you go from like, I would say, do you guys have a system to where, because when we looked at badging in our district, it was really easy to do like, okay, I can prove that I can do X, Y, and Z, but how do you become like a master or like the Jedi Master or whatever? Is there certain badges you can do certain things with the kids and prove it, or how does that?
And it's not just specifically for teachers, we're doing it with employees as well. But in order to gain your badges, for example, iExcel, we have iExcel in our division.
Yep.
So level 1 iExcel, your students have to have answered 5,000 to 10,000 questions since the start of the school year. As you increase your number of questions that your students are correctly answering, then you increase your level for your badges. And even down to our maintenance operations staff and our child nutrition leaders, they are receiving badges because they do data entry, so they get the digital data driver badge. It's really cool, and everyone is a part of it. We have some administrators that they send emails all the time, and that's not a bad thing. So they received the key communicator badge, and it's an email badge.
We all know what that really means.
Right.
Here, you get the key communicator badge.
That's right.
As per my previous email.
Check the email I just sent you.
And check my badge at the bottom. So definitely, but we wanted to make sure that we include everyone, because we're all. I mean, after this past school year, everyone has used technology.
Yeah.
Everyone. And everyone has an option to get a badge. So.
That's so unique. With the schools that I work with, generally, whenever I do talks, it's mostly just the educational staff. It's not, you don't have an HR department that needs to be a part of it. And I think one of the failings that some schools do is they don't bring in and include those people. So the custodian is just as much a part of the staff as the principal. And I think what we saw with the pandemic, what we're seeing now is like more than ever, we need to bond as a community. So when you went through the pandemic, what was your experience like in terms of how did your school handle it? What were some ahas? What were some things like, ooh, we messed this up, but we can do this better? What were some things you got out of that moment? And how did your school kind of react to that?
We wanted to make sure that we did not automatically assume what families and students knew. Of course, the students use technology all the time, but we had to actually go back and slow pace ourselves. Even down to providing technology support. We hosted a weekly on-site tech support for our families.
Okay.
They could register, bring their devices in.
Nice.
We could, if the students needed additional assistance with their technology or their assignments, we provided that support.
Wow.
It was a
Okay.
different layer. We're a smaller school division, as I stated before, so we did provide all of our students with a device, and each child received at-home internet access. So kind of managing that was, we probably would have done it a little bit differently with the deployment piece of it.
Not
but
1 week
you know,
versus a year to do it.
there was we didn't really know exactly how to do it, but we know that it had to get done. So
I love it.
So you mentioned in-home access. What kind of in-home access were you able to provide to your
we
students?
provided each home with a mobile hotspot.
Okay.
Our carriers were Verizon and T-Mobile. And we are rural, so for some students, they suffer from that zip code barrier, and regardless of where they live, they still had some issues with the support to be able to receive the access. So we backtracked, we started providing an internet cafe, so our students could come to school during certain hours and use the internet at the school. And we opened up our guest network a little bit more to expand those hours for families as well.
That's awesome. This is kind of a pivot of a question because we've been talking about this a lot on the podcast lately, especially, and that is tech leadership is such an interesting category. And you generally see certain people who look a lot like me in tech leadership positions. There's not a lot of people of color, not a lot of females in the field. So for someone who's in this field, do you feel like, what are some advice or what are some things you would say to people that are looking to get into it that may not feel like they fit the quote unquote stereotypical white male tech leader role? Because I imagine there's times you go to places, Adam and I talk about this, he's the only person of color in the room and the only female in the room sometimes. So first of all, what is that like? And then
I'm not the only female in the room.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet. It's a different change. I guess first of all, what is that like to experience? But then also, if you feel comfortable sharing that, and then also like, what are maybe some tips or things that people out there listening are like, maybe I could do this. You know, what would be some advice you have?
It was different in the beginning because I kind of jumped into leadership rather quickly. But for me, you have to own it. I know that my why is the children, and that keeps me grounded, that keeps me solid. So whenever I'm in those rooms and I feel a little shaky, because I'm not always the person to say, hey, how are you? I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to network more because I have to. And it gives me a sense of calmness when I do that, but also realizing that my why is the children, and knowing that the best job that I'm doing is going to benefit them.
Right.
So in doing so, I pull my seat up to the table and rub elbows with some of the best of them, and we make it work. We network. We make it work.
Because I have those color purple moments where I see the other black guy in the room, and it's like, oh, and then we like do the little hand thing, because we do that, or head nod. We see each other. It's like, yeah, I see you. Like, yeah, I see you too. Like, we're going to connect at some point.
Yeah.
I'm on this side of you over there. We'll get together and we'll exchange information because we don't know each other yet, but we will. But it's one of those things where we growing your network, and it's like, hey, I want to hear what you're doing. I want to promote the work that you're doing. What are some opportunities that you have? And it's all about growing and learning from each other because, as you said, we go in the room sometimes and we are, one, maybe two folks of color in there, but those voices need to be heard, especially when you're talking about it. That's why you got to pull yourself up to the table, as you said, because decisions are being made about our students,
right.
All of our students, right. And there's power in our diversity. There's power in the diverse voices in the room saying, okay, well, this platform needs to work for these students, or we talk about your connectivity, making sure that we're looking at it from multiple perspectives, multiple lenses, and I think school systems should benefit from that. So I'm glad you say, hey, pull your seat up to the table and be heard.
Hey, I'm here. How are you guys?
You're here. You're a natural at this too. You have a podcast out here?
I do not.
I feel like she's.
Think so?
Yeah, you're a natural.
Do I get a digital badge for that?
Then
I'll do it.
Our first ever undisrupted badge winner right here.
Right here.
Once we make the badges, Adam, and the stickers and the tablecloth and everything else we're supposed to make that we don't ever do. Hey, we're just happy that they haven't taken us off the air yet. To be honest, every day we were wondering how is this that we're still on the air.
But the cool thing with that badging is I'm just sitting here hearing you talk about it. It's like, wow, okay, we can start doing some things with parents and badging our parents.
Ooh,
and then they can come brag on it. Because when you look at some of our parents, they didn't really have a great school experience. Yep. They didn't get a certificate of attendance or AB on roll or all that other things. So this could be their time to shine. And when you're thinking about it, it's a whole household thing now. So mom's getting badges, dad's getting badges. Now the kids I'm not gonna let mom and dad get stuff, and I'm not. What's up with that? So,
pressure there, yeah. I know a few parents that went to one of the last board meetings I was at that I'd love to give a badge to. I won't say what badge it was, but I'll just say they were definitely the outspoken badge. What was the one you said for the email communicator?
Yeah. Key communicator.
Key communicator. We had a couple parents at a last board meeting. I could say that now because I'm not there, but they were very much key communicator.
Right.
So let me ask you this. So a question I'm asking you now is, we've been going through this almost coming up to 2 years now, this whole new normal that we have, this whole pandemic situation, all this stuff. So what are you most excited about that's changed in education and looking forward to next year? We went through all this stuff, we made some changes, we've adjusted teaching and learning. What are you excited about seeing happening next in education?
The infusion of technology. I think that last year forced our hands to be innovative in some of the most unimaginable ways. And now that we know how to make it work, continuing to build upon that. The digital badging, had we not gone through the pandemic and had that whole year virtual learning and learning to communicate That way, I don't know whether or not it would have taken off the way that it has. So I do think that there have been some benefits to what we've experienced during this time as it pertains to technology and education and the increase. Even our students, I do feel that our students have taken a better presence. You see them now and they're grabbing their Chromebooks and they may all be sitting in class and they're still in Google Classroom. It's like, hey, look up from the computer just for a little bit.
Right,
So I do think that just seeing the infusion of technology and seeing it grow, not reverting back, but just continuing to see it grow.
As someone who tried and failed to implement a badging system, it took me 3 years and I never got it off the ground. I would say that I wish in some ways that I would have been there when the pandemic hit, because I felt like that would have people would have finally seen the power of that. I mean, I don't know how big your staff is, but how many people, you're training 1,500, you have 1,500 students, right?
Yes.
And then your support staff, your training staff, do you have ed techs, do you have instructional coaches, ITRCs?
I have 2 ITRTs.
ITRCs.
A technical
Okay.
support coordinator. Yeah.
I'm starting to learn the acronyms.
It's always different.
Yeah.
depending
Every
on
state is
where
different.
you-
Ed
Yeah.
tech, and then,
I was gonna go with NCIS, but they tell me
that doesn't work. It's CSI. But what I think is what's the power of the badging is what someone said today in a session about cloning themselves as a secret superpower. I think with the badging, you can only support so many people as yourself and your ITRT. So having this thing, it's like not only are you kind of encouraging, but they're motivated themselves to go out and say, I'm going to learn a badge and I'm going to earn a badge. Can they request a new badge that doesn't exist? Can they say
Yes, they can. Yes,
okay, good.
Yes.
So you're giving them voice and choice too.
Yes,
I love
voice and choice, and it's all a part of my plan because as they continue to earn those badges, when we have our professional development series, because we do conference style, I now have Pear Deck super users that can facilitate those meetings. I have my Cammy.
Hey, you're a pro. Guess
bring it
what?
on
Now I'm gonna teach
in.
you.
That's right. And for most, even if they're a little reluctant to speak in front of everyone, we kind of pair everyone together, so it works.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised at I've seen some amazing master teachers with kids that are afraid to teach peers, and it's a weird thing.
It's different.
It is
different.
I've said that andragogy is different than pedagogy. It's been a long debate. I said that teaching kids is different. I know, here we go. Don't get me started on this debate. But I feel like teaching adults is just different. I mean, there's still some things you need to do in terms of teaching style and instruction, but I feel like adults carry with them, more baggage. They have different pathways. They've already kind of ingrained. You have the tech. Do you ever have let me ask you this. Do you ever have a teacher come up to you and say, I just don't do technology, or I don't get technology?
Yes.
And what do you do to that person?
Sharp stick.
Count
on.
Carry it? The
Right.
rod or the,
Candy
Right.
bacon.
My question is always why.
Okay.
I think most people, it's the fear of the unknown.
Yep.
Not really being able to, you don't really have a reason why. It's just, I don't want to try it.
Right.
What if I fail?
What about that?
And that's all about technology. I mean, we teach our students all the time, just keep pushing. There's a control alt delete for that. I mean, what if you fail? So what? Keep going. So I always, that would be my question. Why? What is it about technology? Because it only knows what you allow it to know.
Yeah.
So.
And they sometimes don't know what they don't know. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
They also, I'm always pushing back on them too, and saying you have a supercomputer in your pocket. You carry it with you all the time.
Yes.
You probably know more than you think you do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get to them TikTok videos pretty quick. Well, I mean, I know some teachers that are pretty good at that.
Someone recording them in the classroom.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, though. Last question I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
I love your positive energy that you've been bringing. So, and I haven't done this in a few episodes, Carl. But I'm gonna ask you to give our listeners, our viewers, a piece of advice to keep them undisrupted into this new year.
I would say to stay true to you. I think we sometimes get lost in the mix of having to complete every task and do everything at one time and prove who we are to everyone else. But stay true to you. Prove you to you. And although most times you're your biggest critic, just know that you're more than enough. And it will be on your desk tomorrow. So if you don't get a chance to finish it today, I'm sure it'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I got some stuff waiting on me.
Yeah.
She is Krystle Pearson, everybody. You can follow her at TechDirect501. You have officially earned your Undisrupted badge.
Oh,
So we
yay.
can put that in the post edit, right? We can have a badge show up on that. Yes, we're gonna have that.
Ding.
Ding. Awesome. Well, this has been the Undisrupted podcast brought to you by Future Ready Schools. He's Adam, and you can follow him at AskAdam3.
And he's Carl, and you can follow him at Mr. Hooker. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we are better together.
And we are better
Undisrupted.
This podcast is made possible by the generous support of Amazon Web Services.